Welcome to ScottEB's Fitness Journey Podcast, Episode 8, ScottEB's Cancer Journey. In this episode, I talk about my journey through prostate cancer and how my fitness journey has had a profound impact on my cancer journey. Again, I'm Scott Blomberg. I've been working out every day for the past now over 4 years. I've lost over 90 pounds. I've learned a lot about nutrition, and I practice intermittent fasting. I have a goal of losing another 60 pounds and maybe someday even doing a pull-up. Episode 8, my cancer journey. So I haven't mentioned this before because, frankly, I didn't know where things were going to turn out. And it's kind of hard to tell a story when you don't have an ending to that story. And it's been a journey. It's been 3 years almost since I first had an elevated PSA. So I'm going to talk about that journey, and then I'm going to come back and talk about my fitness journey and how it started with the choice that I made to get fit back in 2021. So where did it start? About 3 years ago, in my regular doctor's appointment. So my primary care clinician is Tasha Gastany at Park Nicollet Clinic, and I had an elevated PSA test. So PSA is prostate-specific antigen. That's an antigen that is generated by the prostate gland and is elevated in people who have a tumor in that gland or prostate cancer. It can also be elevated for other reasons. And so from there, we did a retest. It was still elevated. So then following that, did an MRI, and that detected a tumor, but we didn't know it was cancerous. So then I had my very first biopsy, and that came back positive for cancer. So then I was officially diagnosed in, I believe it was November of 2022, having cancer and having prostate cancer. And so following that, I had a PET scan, and eventually was able to meet with a urologist to discuss my options. PET scan, unfortunately, came back negative for any other cancer, and so we started talking about, well, what am I going to do about the prostate cancer? So I then had an appointment with Dr. Jocelyn Reeder, urologist at Park Nicollet Clinic. Dr. Reeder had also done my biopsy, so I had met her before, and we discussed the options. So at that time, I had lost about 50 pounds. And when she said that surgery was not an option for me because I was overweight, I said, well, I've already lost 50 pounds. How much more do I need to lose? And she said, well, you'll need to lose like 100 pounds. I said, okay, well, I've lost 50. Why not keep it going? But we discussed other options. And radiation was discussed. That's a tough option because of the side effects and the fact that recurrence is still relatively high. Something like 20% of men who have radiation treating their prostate cancer still have a recurring cancer after that. And then we discussed wait and see. That is actually, for prostate cancer, is a very common path that men go down, especially men who are older than me. I was 55 when I was diagnosed. And often if men are diagnosed in their, let's say, 70s, they're just going to wait and see what happens to it, because often it does move very slowly. And then we discussed a new procedure called high-intensity focused ultrasound, HIFU as Dr. Reeder called it, where they would actually take a beam, if you will, of ultrasonic energy and attack just the tumor and spare the rest of the prostate. And so it had the promise of better outcome in terms of fewer complications, because when you lose your prostate, things happen. And so that's why it was preferred perhaps over the surgery, which, like I said, back then was not an option. So that conversation would have been in early 2023. So unfortunately, the HIFU is relatively new, and so we had to try to get insurance to cover it. fast forward about 16, 18 months, and HIFU's been denied by insurance. The appeals have been denied. I actually had to switch insurance for unrelated reasons, and that was denied. The appeal was denied, and so on. And finally, we decided I better go back and see Dr. Reeder. So went back to see Dr. Reeder, and she had another PSA drawn, and that was elevated even more than before. We did, just like before, a repeat test. It was still elevated even more. And so just kind of repeated the cycle. Well, as it turns out, the MRI found another tumor. And so I did a biopsy, again, Dr. Reeder. And I remember in the biopsy, Dr. Reeder, she just sensed the second tumor was cancerous and said to me, well, we're going to talk about whole gland options, which I knew her well enough to know that that was kind of her way of telling me, you might be eligible for surgery. So I had my appointment with her, and she said, yes, I believe you're now eligible for surgery. Oh, I should tell you, in the 16 to 18 months between my first appointment with Dr. Reeder to talk about options and this appointment, I'd lost another 40 pounds. So now I'm down over 90 pounds actually. And I had lost like 12 inches around my waist because, as you all know, I've been working out every day. That's how I've lost the weight. So while I'm losing weight, I'm also gaining muscle and building my core and so on. This is all really key to my story here. So Dr. Reeder said, I recommend surgery. It's a robotic surgery, but I don't do it, so I'm going to refer you to another one of our urologists here. And so then I met with Dr. Zabzelka. He immediately said, yep, I'll do the surgery. It's a robotic surgery with, it's called a Da Vinci robot. Basically, the Da Vinci has 5 arms, and they'll make, relatively small incisions in my abdomen and go in there, like around my belly button, and do the surgery. And so we scheduled the surgery for March 19th, 2025. Did all my prep work for the surgery, and went in to have the surgery. Well, the morning of, and I was scheduled for first thing in the morning, so I think we had to be at the hospital at maybe 6 a.m. or something. It was very early. And so right before the surgery, Dr. Zabzelka comes in and talks with me about risks. And what he said is that this particular surgery, my head is going to be down at a 30-degree angle. And so I'll be on my back, but my head down, and then they'll take the robot and go through my abdomen, like I said. And I believe the reason for that, the angle, is basically they're working on my my bladder while my kidneys are still working to fill it, and gravity, they'll just make sure that the urine stays away from where they're working. So I didn't get into that with him, but I asked him if that was a concern, if there's a concern there, and he said, well, the problem with that type of a surgery is if I have too much belly fat, it'll push against my lungs and they can't ventilate me and I can't have the surgery. And I said, are you concerned at all about me? He's like, no, not concerned at all. You're fine. You'll be good. And if he would have asked, I would have said, well, I can do a handstand for a minute and I don't have problem breathing like that. And so, but I did say to him, this is moments before I'm going to go under anesthesia. I did say to him, well, it's a good thing I lost all of that weight. And he said, yeah, if you hadn't lost that weight, I wouldn't have done the surgery. So this is a key part. I'm going to come back to this a little bit later. So anyway, I'm going to tell you about kind of what happened. I had the surgery. It was very successful. Zabzelka, I remember him saying to me, is he predicts that my PSAs from now on will be 0 or undetectable. Less than 0.1, I believe, is the official reading, because he said, well, I removed all the tissue from your body that can produce that antigen. Meaning he took the entire prostate, and so I had to follow up with him in June, so March to June, where they redrew the PSA, and sure enough, it was less than 0.1, which meant undetectable, And he said, well, basically, you're cancer free. We'll continue to monitor, but I am so grateful for that. Of course, I've had to recover. I had that surgery in March 19th. He told me I had to stay away from the gym for 6 weeks, which I thought would be more difficult than it was. It turns out I was recovering from surgery, so I wasn't eager to go back to the gym anyway. I remember trying to negotiate with him and say, well, what if I go to the gym and only do upper body? And he said, no, just stay away from the gym for 6 weeks. You can go back, and that date was May 1st. And when you go back, you can go back unrestricted. And so I really appreciated, him being so hard on me there, because then I could go back to the gym and not worry that something was going to get hurt. What he did encourage me to do was walk. He said, walk as much as you possibly can, which right after the surgery was not very much. I mean, I literally was just walking around the house. The days after the surgery, I had a Foley catheter, so it wasn't going too far too fast. But I did finally make it outside. I think I even made it outside a couple times to walk around the block with the catheter, and then finally got that out. And then just tried to step up my walking game every single day, to the point where my goal was, by the 6-week mark, when I can go back to the gym, I want to be burning as many calories in those walks as I do at a typical day at the gym. And so I was then walking twice a day, good vigorous walks, and yeah, everything worked out there, no problem. I've had to, of course, deal with the side effects of losing my prostate. Urinary incontinence is the big one, but I'm grateful to a friend of mine, John DeVries. John is same age as me, but he had the surgery when he was 50 years old. So you know, um, so he'll be 7 years younger than where I am right now. And so I took John out to lunch and just tried to get some friendly advice. And his best advice to me was the do the pelvic floor therapy for the incontinence. Just do it. Don't see whether you need it. Just do it. So I immediately made an appointment with a pelvic floor therapist, and am very grateful for her care. In fact, I just had my second appointment. So that was in April. My second appointment was in July, and she was so pleased with my progress that she gave me more complicated exercises to do. And so I viewed that as good options. I'm not completely in the clear. I still have to work on it and do those exercises, but I'm very happy with kind of where things are, and the fact that I'm cancer free. And I just deal with that and any other side effects. So back to my fitness journey. So if any of you saw episode 1, I talked about the choice that I made in 2021 to go to the gym every single day. And I'm back to my routine of 6 days a week, just as I was back in 2021. And really, that choice, I remember when I made that choice, and I knew I had high blood pressure. I knew that I had, my knees were shot. I weighed almost 400 pounds. Every step was painful. And so when I made that choice, I sensed that there was some other health issues that I could possibly be avoiding or helping. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what was lurking other than the high blood pressure. I just sensed that me being at 400 pounds was going to end poorly if I didn't do something. So I made that choice. Made the choice thanks to my now good friend Al Espinoza, who pushed me hard to make that choice. And going back to Dr. Zepzelka, when he said to me, "Oh, I wouldn't have operated on you without the surgery," and I thought about that conversation with Dr. Reeder, where she thought after I'd lost 50 pounds I was ineligible for surgery. Well, thank goodness, it was I was eligible when I lost over 90 pounds, and I think it really was how I lost the weight and the fact that my core is so much stronger that contributed to them approving me for the surgery, and I'm so grateful. because now I can just say I'm cancer free and I'm just going to deal with life. And so there you go. So my fitness journey has helped my cancer journey profoundly. I'm happy where I'm at, and let's see where the next step of this journey goes. But I'm still going to the gym every day. I'm still losing weight. I'm still doing the intermittent fasting. My current routine is to do one 24-hour fast a week and one 48-hour fast a week, and then just see where this continues to go. I'm also actually, I like the walking so much in the neighborhood that whenever I can, I add that walk every day. And so I'm doing the gym in the morning and I'm doing a walk at noon or sometime in the afternoon. So there we go. There's ScottEB's cancer journey. Thank you so much for listening or watching. And as always, please feel free to reach out and contact me if you want some help or advice on your fitness journey or your prostate cancer journey. Thank you so much. Goodbye.